Here's Sandy. Oh, hang on. Here's Sandy, chapter 19, Dig. He brought the shovel and began to dig into the cold, hard ground. It took a lot of effort to cut into the topsoil, and after 5 minutes his palms were hurting and his school shirt was drenched in sweat. He slammed his foot down angrily on the top of the shovel and watched the ground open like chocolate cake. He cut the soil in half, then quarters. He imagined it was the face of a bully, and he cut into it angrily before turning it over. Pretty soon the garden was taking on a new shape. Simon tried to enjoy the work, but it was hard and boring. Finally, he finished and he surveyed the brown lawn, all chopped and changed. Then it dawned on him that there was no purpose to it other than to make him work hard. It was for his dad's own sadistic pleasure. By the time he had finished, it was getting dark and his hands were stinging. He finally put the spade away and went for a cold bath. His shirt was stuck to his back with sweat and he ached all over. He sat in the cold bath and poured the foamy water all over his head. It was a lovely feeling to be clean, and although cold, he felt his aches and pains slowly ease. He dried quickly as he knew his dad would be home soon. Simon was always nervous and anxious. It was like walking on eggshells. Simon sat in the armchair and waited for his dad to arrive, with all the subtlety of a hurricane, destroying everything in its wake. For the first time in his life, he began to imagine a way out of his situation. Although he didn't know where to turn, he had no money and no means of escape. The teachers wouldn't be interested, and he couldn't risk any visitors to the house. Alf wouldn't allow it. He spent his remaining free time polishing and dusting like a maid, just to keep his mind off his troubles. When he heard the front door open, his heart sank. Alf lumbered into the room like a dinosaur with a sore head. For once, he wasn't angry at Simon. He had something else to be angry about. He had lost his job. Simon tried to ignore all the swearing and shouting, but it was difficult. His dad was angrier than he had ever seen him. "Make me a coffee," his dad said softly. He had obviously worn himself out. He looked as dejected as a lonely clown. "Put 3 sugars in, I need 'em," he added, defeated. Simon did as he was told, and he did it quickly. His dad looked bereft of hope, and for once Simon felt sorry for him, and then a thought entered into his head. Would his dad be around the house more? He hoped not, as he needed time to feed and be with Sandy, and the last thing he wanted was for him to discover Sandy or be in the way. His dad drank his coffee slowly. It was obvious to Simon that he was very hungover. For once, he didn't even shout at the TV, he just watched it quietly with a vacant look on his face. Simon sat in the armchair reading in the far corner of the room. His dad never asked him what he was reading. He thought books were a waste of time. He only liked the sports pages of the newspapers. Simon loved poetry, and his favourite writer was John Betjeman. He loved his skill with language and the way he expressed complex emotions in simple, everyday language. Secretly, Simon wished he could do the same thing. He was so engrossed in his book that he didn't hear his dad snoring, and he tiptoed past him and turned off the TV. He was woken the next day by a sound of banging and crashing. "Where's the bloody pan?" Alf shouted. Simon looked in the cupboards, and it was buried under an avalanche of plates and pans. "I want porridge now," he shouted. This was a major development. Simon measured out the flaky porridge and heated the milk in the saucepan. It was a pleasant change to cook something different, but he was careful not to burn the milk, and he turned down the ring. Once before, the milk had overheated and rushed over the rim of the pan and spilled all over the cooker. He had been amazed at the sight, and he had half enjoyed it. He didn't enjoy the beating he had received, and it was something he didn't want to repeat. Alf swallowed the porridge in big mouthfuls. "I need this for my energy," he said. "I'm looking for a job today," he muttered. Simon was relieved to have more time alone in the house.